Well, I've always been a person that didn't like to keep a lot of paper documents. So I created them on my computer. But when I was out somewhere, I don't have the document with me. So what can I do? Today, I access them on my phone or my iPad. And how, you ask? The answer is I store the documents in the cloud. Now, I know what you're thinking. Bruce, those puffy white things in the sky, they don't hold documents, do they? And you'd be right. Of course, I'm talking about the internet cloud. So if you're like me and you want to learn more about the huge topic of storing and accessing documents in the cloud, well, you have to make Google Drive and Google Docs your friends. Stay tuned. Well, this is Tech Tips for Seniors, a show with tips for seniors, or anyone really, on how to better use technologies such as smartphones and computers in your daily lives. And I'm your host, Bruce Ciata. If you really want to simplify your document life, and I mean exponentially simplify, then using cloud documents can help you do it. Now, there are so many ways to use online documents to your advantage. For one, there's just plain access, which is getting to documents from wherever you might be. Consider this scenario. You're at the doctor's and the medical assistant asks you a question you don't have on the top of your head, like, when was your last appointment? Or what medicine are you taking? You know you have this information at home in a document on your computer, but you can't get to it right now. Well, with cloud documents, you can get to that answer in a minute or less. And then, number two, there's collaboration, which is a fancy word for working together with a group of people on a document. Now, I remember a day when I was in my job back at Verizon when I would create a document, say a spreadsheet, but it could have easily been a Word document. And then I would email it to a bunch of people. And they would get it, read it, maybe make comments on it, and send it back to me. Then I had to make changes to the document and send it back to them. You get the idea. In the meantime, they would store the original on their computer. And once my changes were made and I'd send it back to them, and after a while, nobody knew which document was the latest one. The result was complete chaos. There were so many copies of documents floating around and taking up space on everybody's computer, it was crazy. Well, all that goes away with collaboration. You share the document with others via a link, and you control the permissions you give them. You can make them a viewer only, or an editor, or even a commenter. Now, I'll show a short video of how to do this in the show notes. Now, there's a learning curve when you make the switch from whatever document programs you're using, let's say Microsoft Word and Excel, to the new ones. Now, what I mean by that is you'll have to find the buttons and the drop-down menus that do what you want them to do. But trust me, unless you're a ninja spreadsheet or document editor, these programs have all the same functions that you're used to using. They're just in a different place. So whether you make the switch to Google Docs or Sheets, or you choose to do this in Apple programs like Pages and Numbers, you can do 100% of what you do right now in the new programs. By the way, Microsoft has all this stuff going on also in a version of their cloud they call OneDrive. Some people swear by Microsoft. If you're one of those people, I don't want to stand in your way. Just know there are other options. And did I mention they were free? Now, to make the switch to Google, you'll have to have an account on Google. It's the same account you have for Gmail. And who doesn't have a Gmail account these days? Next, you'll go to Google Drive, which is the storage area for your documents. Here you can create new documents and also upload existing documents. But my recommendation is not go crazy with existing documents unless you access them all the time and really want to move them to your drive. Even if you do, consider creating a new document once you have the hang of it. It'll be a lot cleaner. Now, I like using Chrome, which is Google's browser for accessing Google Drive. It just keeps it cleaner, and I think it works a little better, but you don't have to. Safari or whatever you use to access the internet will be just fine. So just open up your browser, go to google.com, and assuming you've logged into your account, you'll see a little tiny grid with 9 dots in the upper right corner of the page. And right next to your initial or profile picture if you created one. And click on those dots and you'll find a list of programs that Google has provided. By the way, all of those programs are for free, I might add. If you've been paying Microsoft programs either through buying a license or using 365, there's no longer any necessity once you fully make the switch. So next, click on Drive, and you are in the place where all your Google documents will be stored. Then click on the plus new, and you choose a Google Doc for word processing or Google Sheets for spreadsheets, and you'll wind up with a new untitled document. Now, it's here where things start to look the same, but different. So go ahead and give your new document a name and start to type. Another important thing to note is if you work is always automatically saved. So you don't have to worry about saving every 5 minutes. Now, notice that this new document is created in a new tab in your browser. That means you can go back to Drive anytime you want by clicking on the tab to the left of the one you're working in. Now, if you don't know what I mean by tabs in a browser, I'll create a short video to show this as well, and I'll add it with a link into the show notes. So you can also organize your documents here by going to the plus new back in the Drive tab and creating a new folder instead, and then move or drag and drop the new files into the new folder. There's a lot here that I don't have time to go into, but I encourage you to give it a look and give it a try and really get yourself maybe a little bit more familiar with this whole area because it's got some great functionality. Next, I want to talk to you about collaboration. So let's say you want to send your beautiful new document to somebody else, but you're not sure how to do that. You don't have to make a copy and send it. Instead, you just share it. How? I thought you might ask. Well, you can do this either in the document itself or in Drive. Let's say you're in the document. So you've given it a name. If not, Google will make you do that before you can share it. And then you just go up to the top of the page, a little to the right, and there is a share button. So you click it, and here's where Google has the controls for how you give access. If it's a brand new document, most likely it'll be restricted to only you. Or if you're in Drive, you make sure first that the Drive on the left-hand side has the document, and with a single click, you tap on the 3 dots on the right-hand side, and there you click on Copy Link. Now, before you share it with someone, you have to decide what access you want to grant them. So if you want to add a person you know, just click on the Add People, etc., and there's a box where you can type an email address right in. It may even populate the person as you start typing, and Google will notify the person directly that you've granted them access. Side note, know that the person has to have or create a Google account in order to access the document, but as I said earlier, who doesn't have a Google account these days? Or you can just click Copy Link, where you can put the link to this document in a separate email. Note that anyone who has the link will be able to access it, so just be careful with that. Now, if you want the person to view or change it, you have to change the access. So to become an editor, meaning that they can make changes to it, you'll have to make them one. Or if you want them to have view-only access, you still have to set that up here. There's an in-between option that you can make them a commenter, which means that they can suggest edits. Again, I'll add another short video that shows how to do all of these restriction things. So finally, I want to touch on the subject of Apple. It's an important topic. You know I'm a big fan of Apple, and to be honest, I use the Apple equivalent for most of the things I do. But here's the key. The things I do for myself, that is. When it comes to collaboration, Google is much easier to use for many reasons, and here are a few. Most people have Google accounts, so sharing is easier with them. And many people are familiar with Google Docs. Even if they aren't, they can still view a document you send to them with very little trouble. It's just a link. Now, if you use Apple, you'll only be able to share the Apple Doc, which is called Pages, with other people who have Apple devices, or you have to convert it to PDF or something that others have, like Word. Lastly, and I hate to say this, but Apple's collaboration controls are more difficult to use and to turn off. So I've had documents that I shared with another Apple user, and I had a terrible time figuring out how to turn off the sharing when I no longer wanted it to be so. So in summary, I use Google Docs when I want to share things with others, and I use Apple Cloud for all other documents that I intend to use only myself. It's still great when I can access my documents for all my Apple devices, and that's another topic for another day. So there you have it. Everything you may need to know to get going. Let me know if I missed anything you need to hear about, or I hope this answers your questions and reduces the stress you feel about this topic. Well, thanks for joining me for Tech Tips for Seniors. If you found this episode helpful, please be sure to share it with a friend and leave me a review. If you've done this already, thank you. And be sure to stay tuned for our next episode of Tech Tips for Seniors, or anyone really. Take care.